Here's this. Oh. I don't have any idea what time it is. Shall we start? Is it 2:30? Yes? Okay. So, hello everybody. I'm very happy to welcome you to our session on diversity and inclusion here at the GSTC conference in Sevilla, in beautiful Sevilla. So, I'm very happy that so many people are interested in the subject. As you might know, I'm from ITB. ITB is the largest travel trade show worldwide. But being large doesn't say anything. The important thing is, I think, that we are a huge platform for sustainability and also for social responsibility. We have been working on that for a long time. I'm the commissioner for everything related to sustainability at ITB. I'm also a proud board member of GSTC, and we really try our best to give this huge platform to those people who are really fighting for a more sustainable future. So I'm happy to see you all here and to be able to talk about about DEI, that means diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it is part of human rights in tourism. So I will give you a an introduction into the subject, because it is very diverse too and very complex. And then we will have 3 presentations of my wonderful panelists. And we will open up the floor afterwards for question and answers, Q&A. Unfortunately, one of our panelists didn't make it today because of the snow in London, so she's very, very unhappy, but is sending her regards. It's Natasha Mills. She's the hosting policy lead from Airbnb. So, she's responsible for the policies and the site standards at Airbnb, and it would have been really interesting to have her. She wanted to share with you that, just to jump into the subject, 1 in 6 people in the world have some form of limited ability, to call it like this, according to the World Health Organization. Other sources estimate it's 10% of the world population. Well, so Airbnb, just to give her some, to give you a thought of what Airbnb is doing, Airbnb Experience is leading the way to supply hearing, watching, and learning difficulties, and has developed a stay site to ensure digital accessibility for all, but also for their customers when traveling, to ensure trust in travel. For example, there are apps, meanwhile, which scan doorways very accurately. They have lately partnered with Matterport. That's, one of the tools, but it's a very fast and advanced tool, committed to provide an accessible and optimized experience for all site visitors. It's like a standard for 3D space capture. So, well, as Natasha is not here, I can't dive into that deeper, because it's not my, I don't know so much about these technical aspects, but we will hear more about the practical approach to disability from Pablo later, and he will show us many examples of how it can be done, how it can be done rightly. So, but before I start, let me introduce you to my other panelists. You know, Pablo Ramón is the founder of Native Hotels and Accessible Tourism. And we have Lauren Bruggemans. She is Director of Sustainability and Community Engagement in beautiful Palm Springs in the US. And we have Roni Weiss, who is the Executive Director of Travel Unity, an US-based NGO, which was already founded in 2016. Okay. Well, to get into the subject, we all agree that travel should be a wonderful, joyful experience for everyone, for the travelers, but also for the people in the destinations. So unfortunately, it is not yet self-evident that this is happening. Tourism really lacks diversity and inclusion. So after George Floyd's death and the Black Lives Matter movement, which really led to an outcry against systemic racism and injustice, and afterwards the pandemic, which was a time to rethink and reflect, there is a perceptible tendency that our world in general becomes increasingly diverse. I think everybody can see that where he or she is living. There is a change going on. And with the younger generation coming up, the Gen Z, who is demanding new values, and the tourism industry also starts to recognize the need to reflect the way it operates. I mean, there are reasons for discrimination in tourism, and not only in tourism, but in general, which are based on, we all know that, on ethnicity, on your background, on your ethnic background, whether you're Asian, Hispanic, indigenous, or if you're a person of color. So there's also culture, which may be discriminated. Your gender may be discriminated, your sexual orientation, and your abilities, your physical condition, or your medical condition, age, religion, you name it. So, and many people even suffer from intersectional discrimination. You know, this is another thing which is not to be underestimated. So, when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we wish to eliminate a corporate and a general culture that excludes all these diverse groups of people who are seen as minorities and are therefore suppressed, neglected, or ignored by the mainstream majority or historically, traditionally established rules. And this is happening in tourism as well. And especially the marginalized communities are underrepresented. And they do not see themselves reflected. They do not see themselves invited, even not to travel. If all the advertisements are about happy white couples, then nobody who is not happy, well, happy maybe, but who is not white and maybe not straight might not see him or herself reflected. So this is really something we have to think about. And if we take pictures, we shouldn't take pictures with people who are not authentic. You know, it is a fact that black people who are so underrepresented also in the US in tourism, they don't want to travel with a travel company which doesn't show any black face in its advertisement. And gay people don't want to be traveling with a company which is only talking about families. And this is not discriminating against these other groups, but it is about seeing yourself reflected. You know, and we also have to think about that there is so much diversity within these communities. I mean, LGBTQ+, it's called like this because there's so much diversity. You can't say gay. It's not enough. There are so many different kinds of, also multiple discriminations. So if we want to have customers who are people of color, we cannot exclude people of color also from our workforce. It's not about only the advertising and who's traveling, but it's also about excluding people of color from the workforce and the careers in tourism. And this needs to be fixed internally, but also externally. So in the hospitality sector, hundreds and thousands of individuals, you know, representing all kinds of ethnic backgrounds and identities, pass through these hotel spaces every day. Thus, focusing on the diversity of the staff is also logical. There is need for talent development and social responsibility to value every person's unique qualities and differences to drive the approach of diversity, equity, and inclusion. this mission extends beyond the company itself and touches all the tourism industry, but also the related local population. I might give you an example of one of the hotel chains who are really very active in doing DEI. They said, we want to be change makers by fundamentally transforming the communities we operate in. Tourism as a tool against prejudices and a force for good. Gender equality requires a close look on how do people live in their societies. Understand before you interfere. That includes also fighting against all forms of sexual harassment and sexism in the workplace and fight against domestic violence. There is a gender diversity network. It's necessary to have gender diversity networks also in your workforce to foster empowerment. And this also means to shift to parity in pay, pushing towards for increased female representation also at the executive level. So that is cited from the Aker hotels. So you need to have access to financing, to mentorship, and to partner with local communities, and it needs advocacy. According to the latest research, the decisions on where to travel to are made according to your PR moves, but only if these are authentical. And guests' personal experiences count most, not the theory. And you know, there's the high spending power in the pink, black, silver, or accessible dollar, how you call it. And the company should offer products and services tailored to those in diverse segments. Every department along the guest journey can put diversity and inclusion at the center of the experience of people who have been traditionally ignored or overlooked. So when we talk about the ILO, which is the International Labour Organization, they also really ask for integrating people with disabilities in a fair and empowering way, boosting awareness and sensitivity in the workforce. Like this, also reinforcing the inclusion of the guests. It always goes together. And it helps to create public partnerships like Paralympics internationally and prioritizing meaningful human connection is key to expanding inclusion when creating these opportunities between the travelers and the local people. Then it means we are practicing true inclusion on eye level. So do engage the communities authentically, partner with the associations of these diverse groups, like IGLTA in the International Gay and Lesbian Travel Association. I'm also a board member of that. So, and we will all experience that there are many benefits. Having a diverse workforce leads to higher revenues, also according to McKinsey in 2021, higher financial return, a happier corporate culture, improved retention rates, innovation, and increased creativity. And everybody will really contribute at their maximum potential if you feel you can be who you are. Of course, we need to constantly educate our associates, make everybody else an ally. It is really a transformation. It is not happening in one day. But if you really have a strategy, make it part of your DNA, make it part of your mission, then the new customers coming up, they will really be happy to work with your company as well for a more diverse tourism product where everybody is welcomed. So that was my introduction in a way. And now I want to ask Roni, as a director of an NGO on stage, to tell us what he is doing to advance DEI. Please, Roni, come up.
Thank you. Hello. How is everybody? You're all in the dark. It's one of those. Hi. I haven't heard that many American voices other than Randy, and he's more of the expat type. I'm an American in America for the most part. I have a few extra seconds, so I'll tell you a little about me. I wasn't going to do that otherwise. I was born in New York. I grew up outside of Seattle. I went to college at the age of 10. I got my 2-year degree at the age of 12, went to high school, got my diploma at 15, and I finished my undergraduate at 18. I moved to Hollywood, I traveled the world, I taught English, I did social media and marketing consulting, I did an event in New York where we talked about things around innovation and storytelling, and it was clear that the travel industry wasn't talking about this stuff, so I'm very happy that now the travel industry is. So, Travel Unity. We're focused on increasing diversity in the world of travel. So, what does that mean? How do we do it? Things like that. Well, because we're an NGO, we can look at things differently than for-profits do, because we can be mission-focused. So that's one of the reasons that GSTC and Travel Unity, I think, have a good relationship. When it comes to philosophy, I'm sharing this not just so you know about us, but because I think these are important philosophical things in general when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. No one is perfect. This work changes, the vocabulary changes, the groups, the way they identify change, the way they're brought into the world and how they see themselves, how other people see them. All of this always changes. When you're working with people, there's flux. So having a goal individually or organizationally to be perfect is not realistic. On the other side, it's not enough just to say, oh, we're doing this or we want to do this. You need to actually do the work, even if it's incremental, because every organization has bandwidth limitations when it comes to personnel, money, time. You still have to find the ways to do it and not just say it's important. Once again, very much like sustainability, and we do consider ourselves, at least us, within the DEI space to be a subset of sustainability. And then overall, us organizationally, we don't have a purity test. As long as you agree that travel should be for everyone, we want to work with you. So DEI, in the US, a lot gets focused on race and ethnicity. It makes sense, but you can't lose sight of the fact that there are so many other aspects to who somebody is. And when you're looking at a human being, you can't just go, oh, you're in this group and that is you. Yes, that might be a substantial part of how they see themselves. And I will also give you an additional thing. The reason they see themselves through that light is frequently because it's as a minority or a marginalized group, which is why they need to embrace that and showcase that and find people who are like them. But all of these different aspects are how we see identity. I'll tell you one thing that's not up there, which is criminal background. So people who've been part of the justice system, wherever that might be, are they able to reintegrate into society? Not everywhere is ready to have a conversation like that. So we don't put that up there because we don't want to distract, but we really are talking about a lot of different components of who people are. On the travel side, we're agnostic. We work with anybody who wants visitors to come to them. And we look at travel as being not just overseas, but local cultural institutions, state and national parks, etc. We have two components to our work. We work with organizations to align with best practices. So we have our DEI standards that I'm going to talk about in a minute. We have 3 certificates. One is organizational. One is a leadership level where you create a comprehensive DEI plan to be used in an organization. And the last is an entry-level certificate to introduce people to the travel industry and how DEI fits within it. We also work directly with individuals, getting them to see travel as something they can do as an activity or a possible career path. So a lot of that work is with young people, also people with disabilities. If you are looking to incorporate DEI into what you're doing, I highly recommend balancing these two things. A lot of the folks that I've seen in the US are really kind of focused on the left side, but don't always think about the right side. So you need to be empathetic. You need to think about other people and understand them and what their concerns and needs are, but you also need to make sure that it's folded into process. So for those of you who are part of the GSTC world, hopefully you could see these analogs. And when it comes down to it, if you've been doing sustainability with the triple bottom line, you have been doing some DEI work. You just might not have drilled down to it to the level of some of the things that we sometimes cover. So, our standards that we worked with over 100 individuals over the course of months, inside, outside the industry, DEI experts, not DEI experts, are centered on 3 pillars. So, management and workforce, the people who work within an organization, visitorship, the people who are visiting, the customers, and community impact. So in management and workforce, you'll see the first thing is leadership commitment. So how are you publicly and internally committing to the idea of DEI? Then how are you looking at your whole life cycle around attracting a diverse array of candidates, making sure people feel welcome within your working world, and supporting them and helping them develop. For visitorship, communications, and marketing, then welcoming and fulfilling experiences is going to relate to some of the things around accessibility. How do you make sure you have a consistency of product while also thinking about the different needs that different visitors might have? And then community impact, a lot of that is really kind of standard sustainability work. You'll see environment there. We don't go as broad, obviously, as GSTC, but all the different ways of making sure that local communities and culture are incorporated. This is an announcement. This is a new thing. This is the first time I'm publicly talking about these. If you go to travelunity.org/event standards, these now are out. So the other standards publicly available, like GSTC, non-commercial use free, all that, these are our new standards for special events and sports. The 3 pillars are mission and logistics. So how are you thinking about why you have or purpose and logistics, I think is what it is. So that's how new they are. I think it should be purpose. Purpose and logistics, why does the event exist? And how do you tie DEI into it from the beginning? Attendeeship instead of visitorship. How are you making sure that attendees can have that positive experience? And again, community impact. So I don't have time to go through these deeply, but we are always welcoming feedback on them. So yeah, I'm very excited to be able to tell all of you at GSTC that these, after 17 months that we've been working on these, are now out. So with the time I have left, I want to give you some practical tips. 1, publicly and internally commit to DEI. So you shouldn't just go, hey, let's make a statement. This isn't about just crafting your statement. It's about what are you doing that backs that statement up. So don't just look at it public-facing, but whether you're the leadership or you're working with leadership, how are you making sure that it's infused within what you're doing as an organization? Again, it has to be all parts of the employee life cycle. So if you're putting up a job post, are the things that you're putting up requirements for the job? Do you actually have to be able to lift this amount of things to do it? Maybe you do. And that's a thing sometimes people miss. They're worried that if you're thinking about a diverse kind of workforce, that you're looking to lower the bar. You are not. You're recognizing the fact that there probably are more people than might be knowing about you right now who are at that bar. So really drill down on what are the specifics of the job. Do you need a college degree? Do you need a master's? Like, what do you actually need for it? And really understand what those requirements are. A big problem with partnerships is that people don't maintain those relationships. It's kind of the last thing they think about. It's like, okay, I'd have to deal with my day-to-day clients, and oh yeah, what about this partner that I haven't talked to in a year? It's not a good way to develop relationships by doing that. So be really conscious of maintaining those relationships. Looking at your marketing initiatives through the prism of DEI, Rika mentioned it. If all of the people look the same, a topic that's come up a lot in the US lately is body size. So if everybody looks, like this, are people who don't fit within that going to feel like they're welcome? So really think about the different aspects of how the visuals might look. Again, make sure that your experiences are consistent, that somebody is not treated worse because of some aspect of who they are or what they look like, and also that you're able to cater to their needs depending on circumstances. Doesn't matter how much the CEO and the manager and director on the back end know and care about this if the frontline people have no awareness. So really make sure that everybody who's working with visitors has an understanding about these aspects of DEI. And I know that Lauren is going to mention this in a little bit. When you're thinking about the people who you're hiring and working with in a vendor relationship, think about, are you attracting a diverse array of individuals and organizations within that? That's more than my time, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Roni. I think it's you touched on a lot of very interesting subjects. I mean, also when you said about recruiting, and there's I know in the US there's a Black Travel Alliance right now where they try to help people find talents. Do you think that's a good move?
So overall, you know, my biggest area of familiarity is in the U.S. I'm here to learn more about the rest of the world in it, but I will say the bit I know globally, one very undertapped resource are people with disabilities in the working world. I think a lot of times there's physical and mental disabilities, and being able to incorporate them. There need to be a lot more ties in general when it comes to these different groups that are not necessarily part of the working world or aren't seeing travel as a career path. One of the things that I find consistently interesting is how much we talk about, well, it's 1 in 10 jobs, 1 in 10 jobs. And once again, maybe this is different in other parts of the world, but at least in the US, if you go and ask people about the travel industry, I find that a lot of people don't know what that is. Even if they know that there's an attraction or something, they don't see it all as being one thing. And if that's the case, then folks who are thinking about, and also a lot of times, again, in the US, that's what I know best, people don't see career paths. They think of it as, oh, okay, well, I can work at a front desk or whatever, but if I really want to make money, I need to get into the financial service sector or whatever it might be. And not being aware that there are career paths and you can actually have a good quality of life and be able to be paid to do something in this industry. I just find that those ties, again, I could say for certain in the US and I would imagine in other places, if you're not making it clear that this is a place where you're welcome, that's crucial, but also that you can have an actual career and the benefits of it, why would these groups be attracted to begin with?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So, and one more question I have for you. What are the biggest obstacles, according to you, to your opinion?
So it's interesting. I've actually been only talking about this the past couple days. I was talking to Lauren about this and told her that this will be part of my presentation in the next few months, I'm sure. So I mentioned already performative. So the idea that people go, performative and reactive are the biggest enemies of DEI because it needs to be purposeful. It needs to be thoughtful. If you're just going, oh no, we have to look like we're doing something, it's not going to be, it's the same thing as greenwashing, right? In the DEI space, we call it woke washing or purpose washing usually. So if you're doing it just to look like you're doing it, that's a problem, and too many places are doing that. But I think there's another issue, which is what I call silver bullet. The idea that people go, oh, if I do this, and I'll put money into it, I'll put a few, $1,000, euros, whatever it is, that'll solve this whole thing and will be seen as diverse, whatever. Like, I'll make a new brochure or whatever, and it's a commitment, and it's work, and it's thoughtfulness. So the two biggest enemies, or the biggest enemy overall, is people trying to make it be easier than it is. Like, there needs to be a shift in culture and process for it to work. Otherwise, people will see through you. And it's the same in the broader sustainability landscape, too.
Yeah, I think it's the same in the whole landscape. But still, we have to create the awareness. We have to think about it, make people think about it. And then start at some point, because when you say, oh my God, this is too complicated, then on the other hand, nobody will start doing anything. So, well, I would like to know more now from Lauren about, this is a destination which is traditionally also well known as the gay haven, the paradise in the US. But you also need the community of Palm Springs to follow. And I would love to hear more about your experience.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Lauren Bruggemans. I'm the Director of Sustainability and Community Engagement at Visit Greater Palm Springs, which is a regional DMO in Southern California. I am in a newly created role. I've been there 6 months, just to let everyone know, because it's part of sort of making that investment into these issues and these priorities. I lead our efforts on sustainability, workforce development, and diversity, equity, and inclusion, which, as Roni said, I see as subsets of sustainability. What I do is I bring a resident and community-focused lens to our work, and I'm always driven by thinking how we can make the Greater Palm Springs region a sustainable, inclusive, equitable place for folks to live, work, and travel to. And today, I just really wanted to give you some practical examples of the work that we're doing with Travel Unity. So it made sense that Roni went first, and I can kind of sort of give some examples to some of the principles that he shared of the ways we sort of center DEI in all of our work. I also wanted to give you a little bit of a geographic and cultural orientation if you're not familiar with the region. We're 1.5 hours inland east of Los Angeles in the California desert. The Coachella Valley consists of 9 very different cities, of which Palm Springs is part of. With these different cities have very diverse demographics, diverse priorities. They're also in different stages of development. As Rika mentioned, we have a thriving LGBTQ+ community that were actually some of the founders of Palm Springs. So inclusivity is part of our DNA. I think a lot of people know us now globally because of Coachella Fest, which brings in hundreds and thousands of people each year. I also wanted to mention that we are on the indigenous land of the Cahuilla peoples, which are represented by 9 tribes, which we work with closely as well. We have cities in our valley that are some of the wealthiest in the United States, and then in contrast, we have cities with school districts in the eastern part of our valley where 98% of our students qualify for free lunch, which in the United States is an indicator of poverty and communities that are underserved. Tourism is our #1 industry, sustains 1 in 5 jobs. In 2021, it brought in almost $7 billion of economic impact, and it's an annual tax savings to our residents of $4,000. So we're a destination marketing organization, not a management organization, and I'll go into that in just a second, but as the largest driver of the economy, as I mentioned, to us, it comes with a great responsibility. So really, our role has shifted from just destination marketing to being destination stewards, promoting regional collaboration and being regional conveners. We're able to bring together public and private stakeholders to one table. And we're really driven by balance that takes into account the environment, quality of life of our residents, quality of the economy, and the experiences our visitors want. As was mentioned, visitors want to travel to places where there's a values alignment, where they feel safe and where they feel comfortable. We needed buy-in from our stakeholders, so the priorities that you see here, and I circled the ones that were sort of pertinent to this conversation, they're driven by our community, by our visitors, by our residents, by our board of directors, and by our leadership. So these were our priorities for 2022 to 2023. Destination stewardship to us means just being more thoughtful and more intentional when it comes to issues, particularly with regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, as you know, race is a complex and profound issue in the US. It's something we grapple with consistently. As Rika mentioned, it became a flashpoint in 2020. At Visit Greater Palm Springs, I wasn't there, but I've heard from my colleagues, we didn't want to just react and post a black square on Instagram in support of Black Lives Matter and then tick a box and say, we're diverse, we're equitable, we're inclusive. We wanted to take a moment to reflect, be intentional about our next steps, internally and externally. So we started with an internal assessment that was really guided by humility and saying, what are we doing well, what are we not doing well? And the first thing we did is embed inclusion into our core values. That's what sort of guides our entire organization. So we embedded this value. We embrace diversity and foster equity and inclusion in all that we do. Our next step was engaging Roni and Travel Unity. We felt that we needed an external DEI firm to sort of guide our work because we wanted to do a good job. Phase 1, we audited our HR practices, we audited our website, we took a staff survey. In phase 2, which we actually just finished up, we had staff training on identity and bias, basically a DEI level set, getting everyone in the organization up to a certain level with regards to DEI. And Roni and his colleague Chi Lo, which many of you may know, who was on GSTC's board, were just in Greater Palm Springs and in November, and what they did was work with each of our departments and our board to really codify DEI into our systems and processes. Our next phase of work in 2023 will involve stakeholder engagement, focus groups and dialogues with those stakeholders, and then continue those departmental dialogues. So I'll talk about internal and external, some of the things that we're doing just to sort of give some ideas. We have an internal DEI committee that meets bi-weekly with a representative from each department, and they are champions and chief communicators of our work. We're creating a comprehensive strategic DEI plan that'll guide us through the next phases, and Roni is helping us with that through his CDTP program. And again, I go back to this codifying DEI principles into our systems and processes. It not only creates institutional memory, but I really believe this is where the work is done. It's not always sexy, it's not always exciting, but it's important. And some examples of that, for example, are looking at our vendor contracts and trying to overcome the barriers for some of our vendors from marginalized groups to work with us, looking things like insurance requirements. We're working on tracking vendors across our supply chain and making sure that our vendors are representative of different aspects of identity and community. We have started to include our core values in all of our contracts so that there is also a values alignment with everyone that we're working with. We also genuinely are thinking through how we create an inclusive organization. So it's from the way we conduct meetings so that every voice is heard and feels valued. We dissect communication flows across departments and also try to build empathy across departments and teams. When it comes to our external work, we really want to center our community because we know that that balance and the quality of life of our residents is so important. So one of the ways we're doing that is one of the programs I wanted to feature is we're starting a pilot program in January with a local nonprofit that's going to provide business training, mentorship, and access to a microgrant and our hospitality network and marketing efforts for Latino entrepreneurs that have been underserved, that are Spanish-speaking in our community, which has been identified by the state of California as an underserved group. We really want small businesses to feel that they are a part of our tourism ecosystem and change the narrow vision of hospitality in our region. There are a lot of stigmas about hospitality and tourism in our region that we have to confront. A lot of the young people that we work with when it comes to workforce development, their parents worked in hospitality and they lost the 2 or 3 jobs they had during the pandemic. So it's a consistent narrative that we have to try to combat. We are creating a DEI community advisory council with a range of voices across our valley. We do have a charitable foundation arm of our organization that we run our workforce development and professional development partnerships through. We have partnerships with higher education institutions, school districts, nonprofits to really promote youth engagement and internship and mentorship opportunities. Again, it's doing the work. It's not enough for our hospitality industry to just complain and say they don't have enough staff and that there are labor shortages. We're compelling the hospitality industry to dig in and start to foster talent from a young age. Visit Greater Palm Springs has done this. We had our first intern, a young man who just graduated from college, who from the age of 10 went to school and also worked alongside his family in our fields, picking dates and peppers. And I found out while I was on this trip, I got a text from him that he just got a job at the Ritz-Carlton as a general accountant. Yes, Christian. So it was a very wonderful moment for us, and a great 6 months with him that then propelled him to get this great role. And then again, we're looking at accessibility. Looking at it from a number of lenses. We have a robust senior population in the Greater Palm Springs area, and also folks with kids on the spectrum in our community. So anything that we're doing in our region, we know will also affect the lives of our residents. Not just although we do these things from our visitors and make our destination inclusive for our visitors, they have also the knock-on effect of affecting the lives and enhancing the lives of our residents. And Roni mentioned marketing and messaging, and making sure that it was authentic, that we threaded it in organically, that we're not just posting things during Black History Month when it comes to our Black and African American communities, but we were really being thoughtful of really changing the images that we were putting on social media, on our website. So we do have a DEI landing page in development. This will include our DEI statement and kind of wrap together all of our efforts when it comes to DEI. We currently do have a page on our indigenous tribes, which includes the land acknowledgement, which you can see here. We're also working on starting all of our meetings with a land acknowledgement. We got some feedback from our community, or from our board actually, that we found it a moment of being uncomfortable. It's meant to be uncomfortable. It's meant to be a moment of reflection. And we really want our work in the cultural tourism space to be Indigenous-led. We don't want to go in and tell the stories of our Indigenous community. We want to help them amplify their products and culture. We also have a partner diversity portal. We allow our partners, or not allow, but we rather give an option to our partners to self-identify. We never want to go in and do that ourselves. And we've just expanded our imagery, as I mentioned, of LGBTQ+ and diverse imagery, and also diversifying the voices that we hear from in terms of our writers on our blogs and social media. So I think a lot of the things that I have on my key points have sort of been mentioned already, but I think they're really important points. I think they deserve to be mentioned again. You just have to start. It's a journey. We're not perfect. We know we don't have all the answers, but that's why we work with a great consultant like Roni and others, and we listen to the voices in our community. It takes an investment of resources, of staff training, of full-time staff. My organization invested in me to move the needle in our organization on these things. Create that institutional memory, do the work, codify DEI principles into your systems and processes, dig in and see where the challenges and pain points are, and finally build relationships and invest in community. Again, it's not enough to just say, we want to, we're diverse, here's a few businesses that have diverse folks that own them or run them. It's also about saying, how can we bring these folks in? What do they need to level the playing field? What kind of resources do we need to provide in terms of capacity building, project development? So thank you so much. Looking forward to your questions.
Thank you. I think this is really sounds like a best practice, like a role model. Do you think it is a role model, or would you maybe, because our audience here, they might be also interested, you sure would have had some obstacles too. So which were the most heavy things which you had to overcome? Because it helps us, asking because of that.
Sure, I think there's always obstacles because we're always growing. We're always, it's a journey. So I think that's where the obstacles lie, is having the energy and the bandwidth to continue the work. It takes a lot of investment of emotional and mental resources to do this work, because you're often confronting really sensitive and delicate issues and interfacing with community that are upset, that have not been heard for a very long time, and they don't trust you. And so that's an obstacle. We have a lot of work to do. We have to prove that we're investing in them and that we're in this work for the long run.
Yeah, and if we really want to be open for diversity and inclusion, we cannot just choose one sector of diversity, can we? I mean, of course, it makes sense now. Maybe we speak about a accessible hotel or so. But if you really want to include everybody, then we need to look at all these marginalized groups, and it makes it more difficult because you need to fight on so many points, you know. And as you said, you also have the Native American tribe over there. They might not have been seen. I don't know. You tell me how they feel. How are their feelings? But now you say, well, we're here. There are the Hispanic-speaking people. There are people of color. So there is a lot of problems. It's not only one, because of the marginalization of those different kinds of people. So, but can we just pick one, or what do you think?
No. No. I mean, I think we have to think of it from a number of levels. And then as Roni sort of mentioned, we also can't treat one group as a monolith. We can't treat one group. People have intersecting identities. A person can be Black and gay and be a wheelchair user. So I think it's kind of being really thoughtful about those layers of diversity that's important.
Can I add?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay. I think there's a distinction between the community side and the marketing and visitor side. I think on the community side, you can't pick one because it's a bunch of different communities. But I do think on the marketing side, you can and should, especially when you're starting to do the work, you can focus on, LGBTQ groups or,
of course,
Black travelers, et cetera. So I do, the organizations that think that they can do all of it at the same time on a marketing and product side, I think are going to be in for a rude wake up. But on the community side, you can't go, sorry, we're not talking to the Native groups now, or, people with disabilities. We're going to focus first on, the Black community. Like, that doesn't work. But I do think there's a difference that I wanted to just state.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, congratulations. It really sounds good, and I really appreciate, and it's good. And we need this advocating. We need people who really walk the talk and want to do something. Thank you. And Pablo, I think you're also walking the talk with your hotels. So we would like to know more about your experiences and why you do what you do, how you do what you do, please.
Hello. Well, welcome to my city. I am less fluent in English than my American colleagues. Then allow me to follow a few notes, not to forget some key ideas. I hope it will be automatic. It's automatic? Not? Oh, yes. It's 8 seconds. I will try. Well, if you follow the pictures on the screen, you can notice that in accessibility, almost everything is already existing. We and others have been working for the last 10 years and more to find ways to make better and more inclusive the tourism experience for people with any kind of disability. But good luck if you are deaf and at 3 in the morning, everyone but you at the 4th floor heard a fire alarm, because only about 1% of hotels in the world are ready to save your life. But good luck also if you are 90 and the same fire alarm has blocked the lift. you being at the 10th floor because only 3% of the hotels in the world have a device to evacuate by the stairs. But good luck also if you are blind and you try to find where to switch your mobile phone, try to put shampoo and not body milk in your hair, try to find a good position for your electronic key, 1, 2, 3, 4. Try to imagine if the lift has stopped at the 3rd floor, and so on. Because only 2% of the hotels in the world are ready to make your stay easier. Magnus Berglund, for many years responsible of accessibility at Scandic hotels, used to say, when people ask me why to be so focused on accessibility in our hotels, I always say, for business. The key information to explain this was enlightened by a deep study of the European Union with the INAT, the University of Surrey, and KPMG Consulting in 2015. Customers with disabilities or advanced age in European hotels spend more than standard customers. Their bills are between 30 and 60% higher because they spend more time at the hotel and enjoy more services like restaurant, spa, massage, bar, etc. Also because they travel with companions, family, friends, then a room for reduced mobility. Persons permit the hotelier to book 1, 2, 3 more rooms. Perhaps a dinner with grandma at the hotel restaurant because grandma is really tired after hours visiting the city. Accessibility is not charity, but business. And understand the reason why the lack of service to that market is a mystery. Please keep this idea in mind for the discussion session. About norms, there are those who work to create universal standards for accessibility in tourism, ISO level references, for example. I would like to tell you that years ago, a person in charge of accessibility at the Spanish Association of the Blind, Jesus Hernandez, made an interesting joke about this. In Spain, we have 17 autonomous regions and 17 different regulations. More or less similar, but not the same. About this, he said, we have broken a myth. The strongest Spaniards are not the Basque, but the Andalusians. In the Basque country, the ramps are 10%, and in Andalusia, 14%. About the tourism chain, an important point is how to facilitate the tourism chain from booking at hotel and a flight from home if the websites we need are not friendly for my reduced mobility. We are trying to convince a global OTA to adopt the in-suite web accessibility system, which our pilot hotel website uses. On that website, I can navigate without looking at the screen, without talking to the computer, or tapping on the keyboard if I have Parkinson's disease, because I can operate the website by blowing, making sounds, or touching any key. The next step is taking a taxi, getting on a plane or a boat, being able to go to the toilet during the journey, being able to receive the flight safety information, getting to a restaurant and being able to know the menu without my wife having to read it out loud to me, surrounded by other customers. It is being able to get to the seashore in a wheelchair, or having walking sticks for bathing because I am over 80 years old and the waves make it difficult for me to be stable in the water. Everything I have mentioned are material elements, technical aids. So I would like to close this introduction by commenting on the results of the largest survey on accessible tourism carried out in Italy in 2012 among more than 15,000 users. 95% of them rated at the most important aspect of their holidays stay, not if there were ramps, not if the toilet bar was well placed, but the personal treatment received. To me, accessibility in tourism is business and many other important things also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pablo. I think you're also personally very engaged. Can you tell us a little bit your story? How does it come? Which experiences did you have before you founded this group of hotels?
Well, in fact, I have no relationship with accessibility or disability at all. But I am an animal of communication. Okay. Then I have even erased advertising campaigns like the Jacobeo 2010 in Spain for the St. Jake's Way in the north of Spain, because two accents were forgotten. Mm-hmm. Ahora es donde, now is where, Galicia, Galicia es donde, Galicia is where, ahora es cuando, now is when. And only two accents were enough to eliminate the whole campaign all over Spain. Mm-hmm. And things like this, one day I was director of a club of hotels in Spain. Going back home, I put the radio, and I heard a young girl from Madrid talking about her disability, talking about her nasty life in a big, big city. Mm-hmm. She described his personal life, daily life, through jokes, smiling all the time. I get really in love with this girl. But I get absolutely anguished with the question, she's blind, I'm every day telling people how to spend their leisure time in the best way. Is because she is blind that he can't receive my informations through a laptop? I had no idea, really no idea. I called quickly, driving, looking for the number of a friend of mine, a webmaster. Jose, what can a blind do on the internet? I expected to hear nothing at all, because there's a screen and I am blind. It's a so simple reflection. And he answered me, told me, yeah, I think you can find a few tools to interact with the laptop. I said, well, I hang you. I called the National Association for the Blind. Then second research, looking for the Association for the Blind. And there was an answer phone. I left a short message. I have some friends in Italy that pretend to have a website accessible for all. And 24 hours, I paid the salary of 1 year to have a website accessible for all. And that's how Native started. We have won many awards everywhere, but we have not yet able to convince OTA, or really we have been working a little bit hard in this sense. But I think we could be doing a lot, much more, including this tool, not widget, please, because a widget of accessibility is a joke, it's not accessibility. Then a tool in which you can navigate, surf your internet by blows, by touches, by sounds, you can close your eyes, put your hands in the pockets, and you can continue, and you can pay with your credit card, not seeing the screen, not talking to the computer, not touching any key. And I think things like this, if they are available, they should be used, not forget.
So should we have a more universal approach to disability, maybe? I mean, aren't we all somewhere, somehow not able to do something the right way? So would you
I didn't understand the
if
question.
we should have like a more universal approach to disability, as you said, you might, even all of us, if I don't wear my glasses, I'm not able to do a lot of things.
Absolutely.
You know,
I'm lost. Without this, I'm lost. I can do nothing without this.
Yeah.
I'm an expert in disability, yes. I have been also well informed.
So did you also have bad experiences?
Bad experiences. A nice collection. A nice collection. Unfortunately, perhaps the most eager one was in a hotel in the south of France. I took all my plans with Braille, my stickers for the blind, for the shower, etc. And the director, 15 seconds, I was talking just for 15 seconds, he takes my arm and say, "But sir, what can a paralyzed come to do in my city?" And I was really frozen. I kept frozen. I couldn't believe. 1 year later, I went again to the I was interviewed by a local in the south newspaper, French newspaper, and I comment this anecdote, this situation, to the redactor-in-chief, and she told me, "Oh, you should return because they have changed the director." I said, "Well, I will try." Well, I went once again, and in fact, the director was married with a woman in wheelchair. Then he told me something like, the situation you are describing me, it's impossible to see again in this place. No? And well, I kept a little bit more refreshed with
so
this.
There's still a lot of ignorance, right?
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
we all have to face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I must say, my last comment, in the sense that 95% of the Italian users of accessible tourism consider like the priority, more than physical aids, etc., the personal treatment received. That's fantastic. I was really, it was emotional to hear something like this. And that's why in Morocco, for example, I have been living there for 4 years. I'm in love with the way people treat people in Arab countries. In love, absolutely. And in Morocco, every single tourist going there transmit the same sensation. They say, well, in fact, Morocco is not fantastic for a wheelchair, or for being blind, or for being deaf, but it's so grateful, the experience with people, every time helping you, if you say, even if you do say nothing, you will be being assisted, no? And that's fantastic. And I think it's not bad faith. It's not why we have only devices for the deaf people in 1 or 2% of the hotels in the world. It's not bad faith. I think it's just lack of information, and it's a huge work to be done with information. I think it's the key to succeed, I think.
Yeah, I think it's also a lot of intercultural learning. I mean, we can learn a lot from people, as you said. People are helping people, are still helping people from their heart, and not because of bakshish or whatever. And this is important, yeah. But we have to come back. And I think maybe also this break we had because of Corona made people really rethink how they behave and what is really worth something in this world, and how should our world look like. And as we are all affected now by climate change, I mean, we really have to rethink what we are doing, yeah. So yeah, I think it's really interesting and gives us food for thought also. Do we have any questions from the audience? Can I see whether there's some Slido questions coming up? Yeah, maybe without Slido, make it more easy because I don't see any question, nothing. I don't know.
I mean, you have been working.
Yes, it is. We do hear you.
You have been talking about Italy. I am Italian and I'm working a bit in accessible tourism as well. So I'm quite astonished about the answer and the empathy the people are receiving, the people with disabilities, let's say like this. My question is, are you sharing your experience, your platform, native hotels with Italy, with some Italian companies, or is it possible to do a networking with your, project and things like this?
Yeah, well, we are good friends of Roberto Vitali, for example. I suppose you know very well him. Know him very well. He's a nice guy. And in 2012, we were in Milano at the Palazzo. I have forget the name of the hotel. In the Tricolore, La Piazza Tricolore, Milano. And we have been also in touch with Franco Grasso. Is an expert of revenue management in the hotel industry. Also with people of the staff of Franco Grasso team. But we have had the platform, native platform, has been like a pilot, not a real global tool. No, it was our dream, but when budget is budget, and we have been not for us it has been not easy to go ahead with this, and we have having many collaborations with Moroccan hoteliers, and now we are looking for. Well, we have a project in 2023 to have a global platform with global information from 5 continents. But well, like the Beatles, we need a little help of my friends. No? And then we are in that moment nowadays, and I hope we will be able to spread the tool in Sweet, because it's really something really special. I can say you that we introduced the tool to the ethic team of the UNUTO in Madrid, and after 25 minutes of demonstration, Marina Dutalevi and their assistants were absolutely open mouth, having seen the engineer-in-chief acting like a blind, then like a deaf, blind, with no hand, right hand. He was making combinations of all kinds of disabilities you can imagine. And finally, he arrived to pay with credit card without touching the keyboard, without seeing the screen, and without talking to the computer. It was really something. We say technology is to be used. And it's a shame to have technology like this one, not widgets. Widgets are a trick, I think, because it's very nice to have a button who says, wheelchair. You push, I'm blind. How I push? Who must I push? Then we start not very well. We were blind. Then our system is a tool. You must pay nothing for the service because it's a free tool. That's why perhaps others pretending make money with this are not really very open to collaborate with free devices, free resources. No, that's perhaps a reason why. No? But that's free, and you can use it everywhere. Not with your laptops. You can go to the airport and open the PC at the airport and enter the website and continue in accessible mode at a friend's house. everywhere, at the hotel, where you want.
Thank you.
I hope.
Thank you, Pablo. I really appreciate your engagement. They're just wonderful. I have some questions. I can see them now. So there's one question, Laura and Roni. How does Palm Springs or any destination make travel more inclusive for travelers of color who might not feel safe traveling as a minority? I mean, yes, there's a safety issue. Can one of you please give a comment?
I think it goes back to being engaged with community and having strong relationships with our cities, with our chiefs of police. You know, as Visit Greater Palm Springs as that regional convener, you know, we have great relationships with each of the 9 cities, with each of our municipalities, with our chiefs of police. So in terms of safety specifically, this is how we can immediately address issues. You know, I think you saw there was a recent shooting at a LGBTQ club. I believe it was in Colorado, and our local community organized a vigil, which was immediately posted by the Palm Springs Chief of Police, who pledged his support to the LGBTQ community specifically and all residents of Palm Springs. So to have that public-facing statement from law enforcement of safety and inclusivity and embracing that message went a long way.
Yeah, I think it is very important to cooperate, all private, public, government, you know, NGOs, everybody, because everybody needs to be on the boat. Otherwise, there is no safety as well. That's great. That's a great example.
I just want to add one thing quick. I think that there isn't as much difference between trying to attract travelers and thinking about local resident concerns. So think about if the local people of color feel safe, and if they are or aren't, that's going to, you know, be a lot of overlap with the traveler side.
There's another question for you. Is the Travel Unity present globally? And any criteria or program, coaching, training available offline, online?
So yes, we have our Travel Unity Alliance, and when folks join that, it includes a basic DEI review where we give you a template of things to do. We've done our CDTP, so the leadership level certification that Lauren and her colleague are in and others have taken part in. Those have been timed for a North America audience, but we'd love to do that globally as well. And we do have the baseline certificate is available asynchronously. And then obviously happy to work with folks, however, for individualized organizations.
Thank you. There's also one question about migrant workers. I think this is a big, I mean, also in Europe, in Germany, wherever you go, you have this huge problem, but it's not the people who are the problem, it's the system. So we have to find solutions for that because, you know, it is all obvious. So many tourists, wait, what was the question? Many tourist sectors really rely also on undocumented migrant workers or refugees or whatever who are working wherever they can find work, even though it's only tolerated in a way. But how do you advocate for these that made not trust traditional workforce support systems?
So there was a question also about neurodiversity and thinking about that. And I actually think these two are more tied than they might seem at first.
Yeah.
Lauren brought up the idea of self-identification. The more you create working environments where people feel like they can share what's going on with them, they can disclose disability, they can disclose neurodiversity, they can disclose immigration status if they know and think that the leadership within the organization will support them. So the way that you handle any of this is actually building the trust, and that takes time, and that sometimes takes cultural shifts. But you can't do this without knowing about it from the people themselves. You might have heard about it third hand, or you might have suspicions or whatever, but that's not the same thing as somebody coming to you and going, these are the things I'm dealing with day after day, and then you being able to take that faith in you and help.
Thank you.
And I can respond to, I think, just give some examples of what we're doing practically to address both of those things. So with regards to undocumented workers, the pilot program that I spoke about, or we're supporting Latino entrepreneurs, we're supporting them regardless of their immigration status. You know, small businesses are the backbone of hospitality. So if we can support these entrepreneurs from underserved communities to be a part of our tourism ecosystem, that's one way to mitigate this issue. With regards to neurodiversity, I think there was a question there on what we're doing, and I actually forgot to mention it. So we're working with a company called IBCCES on autism training and certifications. Our end goal is to be a certified autism destination. All of our staff have been through the training. It just gives you practical guidelines to interact with and have empathy for folks that are on the spectrum. You know, in particular, you know, young people that are on the spectrum, kids, it's small things that frontline workers, frontline staff can do to make families feel safe, feel that they're part of that they can enjoy their holiday, just with that extra layer of empathy. So I do encourage anyone to go to IBCCES and take a look at their training options.
I would like perhaps, not being very technical, I would like perhaps to moderate a little bit my passion against widgets. I mean, I'm not a well-knower of every widget around the world, but like a concept, a widget and a tool needs to be properly differenced. No? I mean, I would like to put a point on this. Okay, perhaps we can find a fantastic widget with abilities farther than they have nowadays, or in cases like the widgets we are used to use or to find in the market.
So this would be your wish, because I was going to ask everybody now, what is your wish for the future? What should be happening to make DEI more possible and available for all of us? Would that be your wish?
My wish? Well, just perhaps better information to the owners of restaurants, hotels, and any kind of public places to stay. I think that's the key concept to be able to go a little bit further.
Yeah, but for that we also need the activism of the people concerned. I mean, I know, for instance, in Berlin, we have a very strong activist people who have disabilities, and they are advocating so strong, and they have a lot of allies, and this also helps. Yeah, we need to be allies. Everybody who's not in the position, him or herself, should always be an ally if you believe in diversity.
Oh, it's fantastic when you find, for example, a hotelier, owner of a hotel that has not too much information about the issue, and finally he decides to create with us the system for the dromedary, for the camel. No?
Yeah.
How to make that lady, 85 years old, to ride a trekking on the top of the camel with the wheelchair. And they tried to make a design, to modifying this, cutting here. Months for have a wheelchair, a really ugly wheelchair on the top of the of the camel, but so practical and
Wonderful.
and this kind of moments where you convince someone to say, well, this room will be the adapted one. I will buy the lift for the bed, X, Z, all the elements, and more, and the joylette to have a trek
really wonderful.
That's fantastic. And I said it's not bad faith. Those who are not yet convinced, no, it's just lack of information. I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. Your wish.
I think it's for all of us to just to have empathy for one another. I think to start at the baseline of trying to understand one another, give space for one another. I was talking about this with another member. I'm biracial. My dad's from Belgium. My mom is Hawaiian Filipino. So my whole life, I've had a foot in both worlds, and I've been a bridge of communication between both worlds. And I think if all of us could just have a little bit of that, of trying to be bridge builders, it would go a long way.
Roni?
Pablo mentioned the business aspect of all of this, and I think that sometimes you mentioned the activists and the passionate people, and I think sometimes they dismiss the people who don't care about this but understand it. And I think that those two groups really need to work together more. The people who don't care about it sometimes are at the top, but they understand it. So for them to empower the people who really care about this work, that's important. So understanding the business case for all of this and empowering the people who really live it and breathe it, that's my wish for those relationships to intertwine.
Great. So I think we had a nice session. So and for me, it's also to make people understand that real sustainability will not be possible without the social aspects of it. You know, environmental protection is very, very important, but so are human relations and so are human rights. It's part of it. So yes, there are many challenges to overcome, but we are happy the discussion started, and it started much stronger than it did before. And yeah, just take first steps. Get involved, start a conversation, create awareness, think about it, you know. And GSTC, of course, is more than happy to support. I mean, GSTC refers to tourism for all in the industry criteria and also in the destination criteria. So GSTC is here to help. We will do what we can. And there will also be discussions at ITB in March, because it's going to be a physical show, and hope to see you there to carry on. And yes, DEI can really help to form a stronger tourism industry. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you.